Hello, good evening to all. Whether am I audible to you? Hello, whether am I audible to you? So, hello everyone, and welcome to today's session. I'm excited to share my knowledge with you today. And today we'll have a discussion for the topic Introduction to Servlet. And by the end of the session, you will be able to better understanding of servlet and generic and HTTP servlet. So I will explain servlet in two parts. First part will be introduction to servlet and second part will be generic and HTTP servlet. Okay, and please feel free to ask questions at any time using chat features and I will address them during question and answer session. So thank you all of you for joining today's session. So let's get started with the video. So today's topic is introducing servlets. Okay. So within this session, we'll cover the topics introduction to servlet, what is CGI, that is a common gateway interface, advantages of servlet over CGI, features of servlet, again introducing servlet API, that is application programming interface, and next point will be servlet lifecycle, and within this servlet lifecycle we'll see the methods init, service and destroy. After that we'll see working with generic servlet and HTTP servlet. So what is servlet? You might have heard the word applet, that is nothing but the application program. Same like that, we are having the servlet. So servlets are nothing but the Java programs that run on Java enabled web server. So what is meaning of Java enabled web server? Java enabled web server means the web server which allows execution of Java program is called as a Java enabled web server. And we can take example of Apache Tomcat web server. It is Java enabled web server. Again, what this server is doing, it it is used to handle requests from client, and it generates dynamic web content, and it is forwarded towards the user. Okay, are you clear with this point? So first point is definition of servlet. Servlet you can simply define as these are Java programs which runs on web server, and you can take example of web server as a Apache Tomcat web server. Okay, so next point is CGI, that is nothing but the common gateway interface. So what is CGI? It stands for common gateway interface. It is a standard protocol and it is used to enable web servers to execute external programs and typically scripts we can consider as a JavaScripts and generate dynamic web content. So we'll see the work of CGI, then you will be clear with the definition of CGI. CGI is nothing but the common gateway interface. So what we are doing here, this diagram is showing web browser which is on client side. By using this web browser, we are sending request towards the server. So it is form of HTTP request, and server then it calls to CGI, common gateway interface. It creates separate process with this request. It accepts the required resources. Resources can be related with the database. So it accesses the resources and it gives response to server, and then this response from server will get forwarded towards the user in the form of HTTP response. So all this happens in case of CGI. Now if we observe, Servlet and CGI are doing the same things. We are sending requests towards the server, then server executes that request and it sends result towards the user side. So what is advantage of Servlet over the CGI? So one by one we will see the advantages of Servlet over CGI. So first advantage is efficiency. Okay. To understand efficiency, we should know that Servlet is a thread based model and CGI is a process based model. And before this thread and process, we should know what is the thread and what is the process. So, process is nothing but program in execution, and thread is a part of that program. Okay, so what the servlet is doing, servlet is sending request or it is handling request by using the thread. But what the CGI is doing, it creates new process for each request. Thus, servlet reduce overhead of creating new process for each request. So in simple words, I will tell CGI uses or common gateway interface uses process. On the other hand, servlet is using threads to execute the request. So there is no need to create separate process in case of servlet because it is using thread or it is using the multi-thread model. So it increases the efficiency. The next point is cost. Okay, so creating and destroying threads in servlet is less costly as compared to the process creation and destruction in CGI. Now see, suppose I want to execute a request. So I will send the HTTP request. If I am using the CGI at that time, what will happen? For every request, one separate process will get created. It will get processed to our server side. Again, in the form of response, the result will given to the user. But if I am using the servlet, at that time, it will create the separate thread. It will send that thread towards the servlet towards the server. Sorry, it will send a request toward the server. Then server will execute that request and it is forwarded towards the user. Means here no separate process creation is required. That's why cost in servlet is less as compared to CGI. So next is ease of use, means how we are using it. So servlet are simpler to use and manage, especially for the complex web applications. So we'll understand what is the complex web applications. So it is showing that servlet are very easy or simple to use as compared to CGI when when we are using the complex web applications. So what are the complex web applications? Complex web applications can be a social media, can be a e-commerce website, or it can be a online banking system, and so on. Multiple examples are there. I have taken few of examples. So in social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, these are considered as a complex web applications. Again, e-commerce website, Amazon, eBay. And in online banking system, we are using fund transfer, online approving the loan, like this different processes we are doing. So in such a cases, servlet is simple to use. So next point is portability. What is meaning of portability? If we see the feature of Java, Java programming language is a portable. Means we can type a code on one type of operating system and we can execute that code on another operating system also. Means it is a portable. So servlets are written in Java language. So they are portable across the different platforms that supports Java. Okay. While CGI scripts, on the other hand, are written in various languages but may not be as easily portable. Means we are not sure with the CGI, it can be in different programming languages, and every programming language is not portable as like a Java. So, feature of advantage of using servlet is portability also. So I think you are clear with this concept, that is efficiency, cost, ease of use, and portability. Friends, if you have any queries related with this, you can comment me. And also if you are getting this concept, just send me thumbs up that you are getting the concepts. If you are getting the concept, just send me thumbs up. Okay. Next will be performance. A servlet runs within the server's JVM, that is Java Virtual Machine. It allows them to maintain persistent database connection and other resources also. So what is difference between persistence and permanent? Permanent means value is fixed. We cannot change the value. Persistence means what? Continuity in doing that thing or continuity in doing that work. It's called as a persistent. Okay, so servlet run within the server's JVM that allows to maintain persistent database connection. Means when we use the servlet, at that time database connections are persistent and the other resources also. It increases performance as compared to CGI script, which need to establish these connections with each new request. Means if we are using the servlet at that time, database connection is established persistently, And if we are using this CGI for every request, for every process, we have for every request we have to create separate process, and we have to establish a database connection, and after giving the result of that request, again we have to disconnect the database connection. Again, for new request we have to establish database connection. All these things happens in case of CGI. Okay, now the next point is scalability. So what is the scalability? Servlet can handle huge number of requests more effectively due to their thread-based model. While CGI process is process-based model and can become a bottleneck, or it can be a congestion under heavy load. Okay. Process is nothing but the collection of different threads. So this servlet becomes scalable. Next point is a security. Now, as compared to CGI, Servlet provide finer control over input validation. Means here input validation is strong in case of servlets. So now I think you are clear with the performance, scalability and security. Friends, just send me thumbs up if you are getting the concepts, and if you have any query you can uh, put a question in chat box. Now the next point is features of servlet. So what are the features of servlet? So servlet is platform independent. Or platform independence is a feature of servlet. Means what? It does not depend on any kind of platform. As we know, Java uses the JVM, that is a Java virtual machine. Means you can type a code and you can run it on any another operating system also. That's why servlets are written in Java and they can run on any platform that supports the Java virtual machine. So another feature of servlet is a scalability. Now servlets can handle many requests simultaneously because it is using the thread-based model. So making them suitable for the high traffic web applications. Though there is a requirement of web application high requirement of web application, then also it will not create any kind of bottleneck. Okay, so what are the examples of web applications? Web application we can consider as a Facebook, we can consider web application as a Gmail account. Our next feature of servlet is ease of development, means the way you develop this servlet. With the support of various frameworks and libraries, developing and managing servlet is straightforward. Okay, so this method is straightforward to develop the web services, and they also benefit from the extensive ecosystem of Java tools and IDEs. As we know that Java is object oriented, and within this we can add the classes and we can implement the code in straightforward. If I want to extend the code, I don't need to modify the previous code. Based on the same code I can extend the code in straightforward methods. And also for Java we can use the different IDs. Also it supports different various frameworks as well as the libraries. Now next feature of servlet is security. So servlets support various security features, including authentication, authorization, and secure communication over HTTP. So what is authentication and authorization? Authentication means what? Authentication means identifying whether is it the authorized person or it is the required person. It is a real person or not. That is authentication. And authorization means what? Whether this person is having the authority or not. Now, if you are accessing any college website or any college application, at that time, first you have to go through authentication. Okay. Once you do user login and password, again you have different authorities. Students have different authorities, and teachers have different authorities. So whatever database of uh, college or exam details are there, students cannot access it. Means students don't have authority. So this authorization is also performed in case of servlet. And secure communication over HTTP. Again, the next feature of servlet is robust, that is a strong error handling. Robust means strong. Error handling means servlet is strong in error handling also. So servlet provides strong mechanism for handling the errors and exceptions. Now next is persistence. So persistence means what? Already I have told, it is a quality of continuing. And what is permanent? The fixed value is called as permanent. And persistence means quality of continuing the same. So Servlet can maintain the state information across the multiple requests using session tracking mechanisms like cookies, URL rewriting, and HTTP session objects. So in detail, we'll see in next PPT, that is what are the cookies, what is URL rewriting, and what is HTTP session. So next feature of Servlet is extensibility. As we know, servlets can be extended to add new functionalities and making them highly adaptable to changing requirements. Okay, so extensibility is a feature of servlet. Then lifecycle management. Next feature of servlet is lifecycle management. The servlet lifecycle is managed by servlet container, and which handles creation, initialization, and destruction of servlet, ensuring efficient resource management. Means in life cycle of servlet, you have to initialize the process, again service it, and after that you have to destroy the process. And you have to destroy the process means at the same time you have to release the resources also. You have to free the resources whatever you are using for that process. So next feature of servlet is performance. As we know, servlets are highly efficient because they use multi-threading model to handle the request. This reduces overhead of creating processes for each request, unlike CGI. So what happens in case of CGI? For every request, you have to create a separate process. But in case of servlet, for every request, you will create just thread, and cost of creating thread is smaller than the process. And thread is nothing but the part of the process. So next feature is integration. So servlet can easily interact with other Java technologies, that is JDBC. JDBC means Java Database Connectivity for database access. Again RMI. RMI means remote method invocations. Means suppose I am using machine 1 and I want to access data from the machine 2. At that time, I can use the remote method invocation and I can access the data from the another machine also. And EJBs. EJBs are nothing but the advanced Java pages. Again, it provides the robust environment for enterprise application. Robust means strong environment. So friends, I hope you are clear with the features of the servlet. So we'll move towards next point, that is introducing servlet API. Introducing Servlet API. Servlet API provides a set of interfaces and classes that allow you to create the servlet. Means these APIs are allowing to create the processes and classes. So there are two packages. So first package is javax.servlet and another package is javax.servlet.http. So javax.servlet contains classes and interfaces for generic servlet and which is protocol independent server. These are two packages, javax.servlet and another package is javax.servlet.http. Now javax.servlet it contains the classes and interfaces for generic servlet. So what is the generic servlet? Generic servlet is a servlet which is used to implement service method, init and destroy. These two methods are already defined or by default implemented. Just we have to implement the service method. That is nothing but the generic servlet. And friends, I have uploaded video related with creation of generic servlet. That is how to create generic servlet. And I have uploaded this video. You can check this video for creation of generic servlet. So next is javax.servlet.http. It provides the classes and interfaces to support HTTP servlets. Okay. So for this, that is implementing HTTP servlets, I will upload the video. You can check that video. Now in detail, we'll see the javax.servlet. So this is the package. In our program, we have to add this package so that the methods or interfaces which are by default implemented in your by, by default implemented in this servlet package that will get added to your program. So servlet interface. So servlet interface, if we take this servlet interface, it defines the init, service and destroy method as well as get servlet configuration, which gives the information. Configuration means what? It gives the information startup and initialization parameters of servlet. Again, get servlet info means servlet info, who is the author of servlet, version, copyright details that all server must implement. Like this, we can take information also by using the get servlet info method. Now the next interface is servlet request interface. It provides method to access request information such as the parameters and input stream. So this interface is used to access the parameters and input streams. Again, same like uh, request interface, we are having the response interface also. It is a servlet response interface. It provides the methods such as get output stream to send response client and servlet configuration interface. It provides the servlet configuration information. So we have seen what is the servlet configuration information, means at the startup what are the values required, what are initialization commands, all these things are given in servlet configuration interface. Now next is generic serverless class. Now see, in this package, that is javax.servlet, this generic servlet class is implemented. Means we have to extend this class to create a protocol independent servlet by overriding the service method. Okay, so what I have told you that in generic method already init and destroy method are by default implemented. Just we have to override or we have to modify the service method. So what is difference between overloading and overriding? Method overloading means what? Function names are same but parameters are different. Okay, but in case of overriding, method names are same, but implementations are decided at the run. So it is called as overriding. And I have uploaded video related with creation of generic servlet. You can check that video on my YouTube channel. And please do subscribe for the latest updates for latest upcoming videos. So that, and don't forget to click on notification bell or bell icon so that you will get notified when I upload the new video. The next package is javax.servlet.http. So javax.servlet.http package is designed for handling HTTP requests and responses in Java web applications. Means especially this package is designed for handling HTTP request and HTTP response. So core interfaces and classes. So here interfaces are used as HTTP servlet request interface and HTTP servlet response interface. So HTTP servlet request interface means it extends servlet request to provide request information for HTTP servlet. It extends servlet request to provide request information for HTTP servlet. Request information means what? We are requesting some data. Okay, so request information contains the following methods. Get requested URL. It can be a URL. It can be a method. Get method. Again, within this get method, we can have get method, post method, get cookies, get header files or get headers. And next interface is HTTP servlet response interface. Response means what? Server will execute your query and again it will give response back towards you. So whatever data is coming within the response, okay, it extends servlet response to provide the HTTP specific functionality in sending the response. It contains the method. So whatever that response is there, it contains the method add cookies and set header as a string name and string value. This what is whatever required data is there, it will send in the form of response. Now we are now we are now move to the next point, that is HTTP servlet class. It is nothing but an abstract class to be subclassed to create HTTP servlet suitable for a website. So it uses the methods get do get and do post method. So do get method, again within that it contains the HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response. Okay, it handle now see do get method, it handles HTTP get request. When you enter URL in your browser, a GET request is sent to the server. Means when I use do get method, at that time you enter URL within your browser and it is sent towards the server. Now do post method. It contains the HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response. Again, objects are created for this. This REQ is nothing but the request object and this is a response object. Now see, it handles the HTTP post request. Means when you submit the registration form, post request is sent to the server. Now see, get request means what? I'm typing the URL. I want to fill this form. So I will type the name of that exam or I will type website related to that exam. I'm typing the URL and I'm getting that page is nothing but the get method. And post method means what? I will fill my all the registration details related with the exam. And just I will click on the submit button means I'm posting my data. Okay, it is nothing but the post request is sent towards the server. Now next method is do put. Again here we are passing the parameter HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response. So this put request it contains the updating the user information or modifying a record in database. For example, phone number. Now see, do put means what? We are modifying the record or updating the user information. So for that purpose, do put command is used or this method is used. Again, next method is do delete method. So for this, again, it is having the two parameters HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response. Okay, and it handles HTTP delete request. Means it is used to delete resources from server or deleting user account from the database. It is used to delete resources from the server. Now next interface is HTTP session interface. So what is purpose of this interface? So this provides a way to identify user across multiple requests and store information about that user. Now, if we want to identify particular user, in such a cases, HTTP session interface is used. And methods within this are get attribute, set attribute, and invalidate method. So get attribute, this method returns the object bound with the specific name in this session. Set attribute means what? It contains two parameter name and an object value. It binds an object to this session using a specific name. And the third method is invalidate, that is, it invalidates this session and unbinds objects bound to it. Means it, it will separate the objects and sessions. So next is the cookie class. So cookie means what? Whatever we are accessing the data, the server will send small file related with that or a small history of that. It is nothing but the cookie class. So it represents small amount of information sent by a servlet to a web browser and saved by web browser, and later it's sent back to server. So what are the key methods in this class? First one is a set name, set value, and set maximum age. Means for that cookie, we have to set the name and what will be the value of the cookie, and after that set maximum age of cookie in seconds. After that many number of seconds, cookies will get expired. So here is overview of servlet life cycle. Again, in servlet life cycle will start with this method. It will started again. It implements the init method to initialize the server, to initialize the process after servlet. Again, next method is servlet service, and finally it will destroy. Means what? When we execute a servlet, at that time, at first time it do the loading and instantiation of data, and it will initialize the process. Afterwards, it will provide the service whatever required. After that, destroy. Why this destroy method is used? To free the resources. When servlet is executing a process, if it access some required resources and we want to free that resources, for that purpose destroy is used. And again, from handling request to end of request side, like this set. And here init servlet configuration config. Now this init method, which is already by default implemented in javax.servlet package. So it is used to initialize the servlet and is called once, and it is called only once. Now next method is the service method. It contains the request and response. It handles client requests called for each request. So service method is used to handle the client's request for each request. And destroy method is used to clean up the resources before servlet is destroyed and is called only once. Once service is provided, destroy method will get called and it relieves the resources. Okay. Now in next part we'll cover the topics, that is working with generic and HTTP servlets. Friends, once again I'm repeating this thing, that generic I have already uploaded video related with how to create generic servlet. You can refer this video for creation of generic servlet, and for HTTP servlet I will upload the video soon for this HTTP servlet. Again, we'll see the differences between generic servlet and HTTP servlet. After that, working of generic and HTTP servlet. Then we'll see the next request dispatcher interfaces, that is include and forward. Again, use of request dispatcher and introduction to session in servlet. After that, HTTP session. Now we'll see working with generic servlet and HTTP servlet. Generic servlet is an abstract class that implements the servlet and servlet configuration interfaces. The servlet configuration interfaces provides several methods. Now it is a configuration, means it provides the method get servlet name, get servlet context, again get init parameter, means to take the initial parameters. Next is it provides protocol independent implementation of servlet. And best feature of this generic servlet is it creates the protocol independent servlet. It can be used with any protocol. You can use with HTTP, SMTP or FTP. HTTP is hypertext transmission protocol. SMTP, that is the simple mail transfer protocol, and FTP is file transfer protocol. Means with any protocol you can use this generic servlets. Mostly it is used as a base class for creating a servlets that do not depend on specific protocol. It provides init and destroy methods for initialization and cleanup tasks. Already we have seen in servlet lifecycle also, this init method is used to initialization of variables or input resources, and this destroy method is used to clean up tasks, means whatever resources taken by the process you have to release that resources. For that purpose destroy method is used. Now working with HTTP servlet. Now see, HTTP servlet is nothing but the request response kind of model. So working with HTTP servlet, it involves creating a servlet that extends HTTP servlet class, and it overrides its method to handle the HTTP request. Now see, we'll see here steps to create HTTP servlet. So first we have to extend the HTTP servlet class by using this create new class that extends the HTTP servlet. Next is override HTTP method. So HTTP methods are nothing but do get, do post, do put and do delete method. So do get method is used to get the URL. Again do post method, as I have told in example, if we are filling the form we submit it, that is nothing but the do post method. And do put method means what, we are updating data in database, that is nothing but do put method. And do delete, if we want to delete data from the database at that time or a particular record from the database, we can use do delete method. And these are used to handle the specific types of HTTP requests. Now next step within this is configure the servlet. For configuration, again we have to define the servlet in web.xml file or by using the annotations to map the servlet to URL pattern. So best way is to define servlet in the form of XML file. Now the next is a request dispatcher interface, which contains the include and forward method. Okay, so the request dispatcher interface in Java servlet is used to forward a request from one servlet to another servlet or another resource. And that resource can be JSP file or it can be a HTML file. So request dispatcher interface is used to forward the request, And to whom it will forward request? It will forward the request from one servlet to another servlet, or from one servlet to another resource, that is a JSP file, or it can be a HTML file. And this interface is a part of javax.servlet package. Now next is the forward method. So syntax for forward is void forward, again servlet request, servlet response. Here request and response are created, objects are created, and it throws servlet exception as well as IO exception. IO exception is input output exceptions. Here forwards request from servlet to another resource on the server. Now suppose I'm using one servlet, servlet number 1, and another resource file, resource 1 I want to access. At that time, I can send this message, or I can forward this method. I can use this method as a forward from servlet 1 to resource 1. The response from original servlet is not directly sent to client. Instead, response from forwarded resource is sent. Means what? Take an example. I'm using the servlet 1 and I want to access resource 1. So what I will do? I will send request to server, and server will send request to resource 1. Like this, resource 1 is available or not. If it is available, it will send response to server, yes, I am available. If if that resource 1 is not available, then it will send response, I'm not available. And whatever response got from this resource is will get forwarded towards the user. It is a servlet 1. So it is nothing but the forward method. So next is the include method. So syntax for this include method is void include. Again, within this include two parameters are given, servlet request and servlet response. Again, it throws servlet exception and IO exception. Now see its a description. It includes the content of resources. It includes the content of resources. Now see, in forward method, first we are checking whether resource is free or not. And here we are checking the contents of resource. That is it can be a servlet, it can be a JSP or HTML file in the response. The response from the included resource is added to the response of the calling servlet. Next is a forwarding. So it transfers control to another resource without sending the original response to the client. So it is transferring control to another resource without sending the original response to the client. And what the include method is doing, it adds the content of another resource to the response of calling servlet. It is not sending the original result. So what is use of request dispatcher method? So within this, forwarding a request. So forward method is used to forward a request from one servlet to another resource on the server. This method is called before response is sent to client. Again, syntax for this forwarding request is void forward. Again, we have to pass the parameters servlet request, servlet response, and it throws servlet exception and IO exception. So what in forwarding you have to provide the path by using this object, that is a request dispatcher. Again, by using this request dispatcher method, we are calling to forward request and response. Now the next is including a resource. The include method includes the content of resource. As we have seen, content methods of resource. It is including the content. It can be a servlet, JSP or HTML file. And it is useful for reusing the common parts of web page. So to use common parts of web page, it is used. Then syntax for this is servlet request and servlet response, which throws the IO exception. Again here request dispatcher, you have to create the object for request dispatcher, and by using this object you have to call the method get request dispatcher and include method. Now we'll move towards the next point. What is a session? So session is a way to store information about user across multiple HTTP requests. Suppose user is there, user 1 is there, and it is always accessing data related with the mobile. Which version, which Android version, new mobile is coming. Like this, it is trying to access the information always. So in such a cases, it allows web application to remember user specific data. Means this user is always requesting such a pages. Okay, and it tries to remember login status and shopping cart contents or user preferences. Now users preferences, information of mobile, which latest version is coming, which latest operating system is coming, like this. Again, it can store the information related with the shopping cart contents. This user is always requesting these kinds of items. Such information or login information is stored. So it is nothing but the session. Means it stores the information about a user across multiple requests. Now session tracking techniques. So what are the session tracking techniques? Session tracking techniques are cookies. Cookies already I have told you, it is a small piece of data stored on client side which is sent by the user, means which is sent by the server to client and returned with each request. Means here server is sending small piece of data towards the client side. It is called as the cookie. So example, you can type like this: cookie, again object of this user cookie is equal to new cookie, and you have to pass parameters username and value of that parameter. So by using this response method you can add this cookie. Now within session tracking techniques we have seen the first technique, that is the cookies. It is a small piece of data on client side, but it is sent by the server only. Okay, so next session tracking technique is hidden form fields. So what is hidden form fields? Data is stored in hidden form fields within HTML forms, and it is sent to server when the form is submitted. For example, in HTML we create the input type as a hidden and name for this as a session ID, and value will be anything 54321. I have given any value you can give. By using hidden form fields also can give the data, and it tracks the hidden form field sessions to collect the information. The next thing is URL rewrite. So session ID is appended to the URL, and it is useful when cookies are disabled. When cookies are disabled, at that time this URL rewriting is useful. Again here you have to create the object, that is a string URL, and response encode the URL. And here you can give JSP page or any resource available. And next session tracking technique is HTTP session. It is most commonly used method, and it is a server side storage of session data. So example of this HTTP session is you have to create session object and you have to call the request dot get session method. And after that you have to give the session dot set attribute, means for username you have to set the attribute as a John Doe. So here we can define the cookie like this. Cookies are small text files that website store on your device to remember information about you. Means this is small text file. It is created by server but stored on your machine to store your information. And or we can define these cookies like this also. Cookies are small file of information that web server generates and send it to a web browser. Again, there are different types of cookies. First is a session cookie, persistent cookie, and third party cookie. Session cookie means what? They are temporary kind of cookies. When you create the session, at that time that cookies will get created, and once you stop the session, at that time that these cookies will get deleted. Once you close the browser, cookies will get deleted. The next is the persistent cookies. What are the persistent cookies? These remain on your device for a set of period even after you close your browser. They help the website to remember your login details and preferences. So persistent cookies, what they are doing, for a specific period of time they will be available on your browser. And the next type of cookies, third party cookies. These are set by the websites other than you, other than the one you are currently visiting. Okay, often used for advertising and tracking purposes. So, are you getting? Third party means what? I'm I'm always visiting to the website which on which mobiles are available. But there are another website also which are interested to advertise their tablets. Okay, so that tablets website becomes the third party cookies. So these are the types of cookies: session cookies, persistent cookies, and third party cookies. Now the next thing is the hidden form fields. So hidden form fields means what? We are creating a HTML file. Within that, data type will be as a hidden, and we are providing information there which will not be visible to user. You can take an example as a password. When we are typing password, at that time that view password we can enable that option. Sorry, disable that option. Means it will not be visible to user. like that hidden form fields works. And here we'll see the point how hidden form field works. First is creation. First, you have to create the hidden form fields by using the HTML tags. Next thing, embedding the data. That is, data is embedded. Data is embedded means what? Added in the hidden form fields, which is then sent to server when the form is submitted. When we are submitting the forms, obviously that embedded data will go towards the server. And next step is retrieval. The server retrieves the hidden fields data using the get parameter method and HTTP servlet request interface. By using this get parameter and HTTP servlet request interface, server will retrieve the data. Now next point is URL re-return. URL means what? Uniform resource locator. We are providing web pages. So URL means what? URL rewriting is a technique used in web development to modify the URL of the web pages. But why to modify URL of web pages? This can be done for various reasons, for improving the user experience or enhancing the SEO. So URL rewriting is done for enhancing SEO. Enhancing SEO means improving the SEO. And what is SEO? It is a search engine optimization. It is nothing but the process of improving the quality, quantity of website traffic to website or web page from the search engine. Means in short we can say as to increase the website ranking, this URL rewriting is used. Take a simple example. If I give URL like this http profile id question mark then 567. If I rewrite this URL like this http:/profile/567. So which one will be easy to type for user? The URL which is rewritten. It is in the simple form. Okay. Now next is advantages and disadvantages of URL rewriting. We are doing URL rewriting means we are modifying URL and which will be convenient for user to remember and to type. So let's see the advantages of URL rewriting. First one is a browser independence. Means though you rewrite the URL, it will not affect on any kind of browser or any kind of browser will not affect to URL. So URL rewriting works regardless of whether cookies are enabled or disabled in user's browser. The next is a SEO benefit, that is a search engine optimization. It cleans and readable URLs are more search engine friendly, which can improve the website's ranking. So SEO benefit means website ranking is increased by using the URL rewrite. The next benefit is debugging. Since data is appended to URL, it is easier to debug and track issues. And next is no extra form submissions. URL rewriting does not require additional form submission on each page, so making it efficient. Now we'll see the disadvantages. In disadvantages, first is the security risk. So data appended on URL is visible to user, so it is less secure as sensitive information can be exposed. So this becomes one disadvantages. Another disadvantage is limited data types. Here in URL rewriting, we are giving the textual information. So it creates the limit for complex data types. Complex data type means if I want to give a 3D image as an input, at this time it creates the problem for URL rewrite. Again, URL length limitation. There is a limit to the length of URLs, which can restrict a amount of data that can be appended. So whatever length of URL we are giving, so it has a limitation. So it will again restrict to amount of data what we are pending. So next is a tedious implementation. Tedious means like a boring. So managing and maintaining URL rewriting can be a tedious thing, especially for the complex applications. Now the last point is HTTP session. So what is HTTP session? So HTTP session is an interface provided by javax.servlet.http package. Okay, so this interface is provided by this javax.servlet.http package, and it allows servlet to create a session for user, store and retrieve user specific data. Again, it is used to track user interactions across multiple requests. So what is use of this HTTP session? It is an interface and it is given by the javax.servlet.http package. By using this interface, we can create a session, we can store and retrieve user specific data and track the interactions across the multiple requests. So creating session, storing and retrieving data and track the session. So next is how this HTTP session works. So session creation. When a user accesses a servlet, a session is created using request.getSession. If a session already exists, it returns the existing session. Means suppose I want to create a new session or a new session. At that time, it sends the request.getSession. Again, session ID. Each session has a unique identifier. That is nothing but the session ID. And this session ID is sent towards the client side as a cookie and it is appended to the URL. Data storage. Again, you can store data in the session using session dot set attribute. So it is having key and value pair and retrieves it using the session dot get attribute key. Now see what is difference between parameter and attribute. Suppose I am sending the form. I'm I'm filling the form of some exam and I'm giving the details, name, address, phone number, which subject I want to appear for. All these are nothing but the parameters. Once I submit all these parameters, I am getting some registration number from that website. That registration number is nothing but the attribute. Okay, so this is difference between the parameter and attribute. So next is a session timeout. So sessions has a timeout period after which they are invalidated and this can be configured by using the web.xml file or by using the program or programmatically we can time out the sessions. So thank you friends. If you have any queries, you can ask me queries. Thanks for attending this session. Thank you.